My name is Owen Thurman, and this is my project for 392 Computer Science. It is a data analysis of happiness around the globe, and let's just get into it because we do not have a lot of time. Firstly, here's the three questions I would like to know. Does freedom correlate with generosity? What makes people happy in different places? And can we segment different parts of the world based on wealth and happiness? First things first, here's our data set. It's the World Happiness Report, comes from Gallup. It's pretty straightforward. I feel like all the variables are pretty self-explanatory. Threw out positive and negative effect, and I added regional indicator. And the rest of these, you can read them and have a pretty good idea of what they are. Question one, does freedom correlate with generosity? Do free people donate more? So immediately in this data set, I plotted them on a dot plot, and you can actually see a little bit of a correlation right off the bat. But let's get a little more specific. Let's create a linear regression model to try to see the exact relationship between these two variables. And we see that, yes, freedom does cause generosity. Happiness and freedom are the two biggest predictors of generosity. In fact, they are the only two predictors in this data set from the coefficients that we used, which you can see on the right. So if you're happy and you're free, you're more likely to donate, at least on a widespread scale. Model validation, it's a terrible R-squared score and a really good mean squared error score. Now, question two is what makes people happy in different regions? So we start off with a PCA analysis, a principal component analysis, to reduce the dimensions and see how many of our coefficients even matter when explaining the variance in this model. So we see that it's really the first three that matter, and at least matter the most. Every variable added or coefficient added after that doesn't do as much. I mean, it still is a decent amount, but to get to 90%, really, it's just the first three. But because of the way that the data set is, a lot of countries, their first predictor or first three predictors vary wildly. So let's get into it. So here are, just to break it down, it's the per capita coefficients for predicting happiness. So this is how much does having money, or the GDP per capita in different regions, how much does that increase your happiness? So you can see in East Asia, they love having a lot of money. It makes them really happy. In North America, it actually makes us less happy somehow. So you can't buy you can't buy happiness in America, but you can buy it in the rest of the world. And then here is our social support coefficients. How much does social support increase happiness? You can see in most of the world, it has a pretty strong effect. Some countries or regions are a little more strong than others, such as West Europe. But across the board, it's positive. Lifespan. People in Eastern Europe, they love living a long time. Commonwealth of the Independent States, they hate that. It's terrible. They want to die young. Live fast, die young. Freedom. Americans love being free. That's not really news, but here's the science to back it up. And then in South Asia and Southeast Asia, we see a negative relationship. And by the way, these are all done through linear regressions. Generosity. So East Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, Western Europe, these are all places where generosity correlates with, or predicts happiness. In Southeast Asia and South Asia, not so much. Corruption. South Asia hates corruption. They reacted really strongly to this one. It's a huge predictor of happiness. Same thing with Western Europe, but in other places, you actually see that they respond positively to corruption. It makes them happier. So that's kind of an interesting point. Finally, question three. Can we segment the world into clusters based on wealth and happiness? So this is GDP versus happiness, wealth and happiness, and we see that it's a very linear relationship. It's kind of pokey, which is kind of interesting. I believe that's because the data set encompasses a lot of time. So through time, countries get better and better. Now, this is clustered with a hierarchical clustering model. I chose 4 clusters just because it seems like the right amount. I wanted to grade it on a low number, but still high enough to have a good variation. So as you can see, the top right, great place to go. Bottom left, terrible quality of life. And here is it faceted by region. So Sub-Saharan Africa is the worst quality of life, where North America and Western Europe have the best quality of life. South Asia is also not doing so great. So, yeah, that is pretty much the answers to all these questions. I believe that in our questions, we were able to answer all three. Does freedom correlate with generosity? Yes, it does. It's actually the second biggest predictor. What makes people happy in different places? Well, a lot of things. It's kind of all over the place there. It's very interesting. And can we segment different parts of the world based on wealth and happiness? Yes, absolutely. Yes, we can. So that could be a good tour guide for if you want to figure out where to go. And for those who are curious, here is all the code that I wrote for this. Pretty long, but it has all our models. And if you want to take a look at that, there it is. Anyways, thank you for listening, and thank you for hearing about what makes people happy all over the world. Thank you.